we have one more minute because we go live. Sheriff. Well, it is 8:30. Welcome everybody to the Delta County Board of County Commissioners meeting for October 7th, 2025. Thank you, Mike. And before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to welcome one of Delta County's newest residents, Mr. Ray Beck. Ray, it's good to see you and good to have you here.
Thank you.
So please join me in Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions or changes to our agenda this morning?
I have one addition, that an award recommendation letter for runway pavement maintenance and South Hanger partial taxi lane pavement maintenance for Blakefield Airport. The timing for the award letter needs to occur today, and the information received was after the deadline for the posting of today's BOCC meeting.
Will we do that under planning or where?
That will be after planning, after the driveway information for the Rich application.
Very good. Anything else? The agenda will stand as amended. I see 4-H isn't here yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Constituent time. Does anybody like to address the commissioners this morning? Please come forward, introduce yourself, where you live, and make sure the mic is on.
Can you hear me? Just push that one.
Is it red?
Just push the button once. There you go.
My name is Tim Austin. I live in Paonia, Colorado. Can I approach the commissioners to hand you a sheet?
Hannah Nicole.
Okay. So 2 or 3. 3. Okay, very good. What you're looking at, I'm here to ask for help more than anything. What you're looking at is the complaint form that was handed to me back in March by the planning department as a complaint against Fort Austin. I was told that there were many, many complaints against Fort Austin. When pressed, it turns out there was only one complaint against Fort Austin. When pressed, once again, this is the form that was handed to me by the planning department. I'm here to ask you, what is the complaint against Fort Austin?
I'm going to have to direct this to the planning director.
Okay, well, and that's part of the issue here is the planning department. First of all, this document was signed by a senior citizen and was tricked. And this is according to their words. In fact, they said this before the Board of County Commissioners. The Davises said they did not complain. A person in a position of trust, the person who undersigned here from Delta County, tricked them into signing this. That's what they said to you. That's what they said. We have a recorded message saying that. Not only that, if you look at this, if you look at the E in the undersigned, and then look up at Zin, and we have a recording that he admitted that he altered this document for the fact. There is no complaint listed on here. There is no, it's unintelligible. And what I'm asking for is help from the county commissioners. We're being targeted by these people. My first event was 2014. Every one of my cabins were started before December of 2020, before the land use codes were ever voted in. Yet we're being targeted by the planning department. They will not listen. They will not even consider grandfathering. They will not even consider we are being fill out the permit. That's the only thing that they will consider. The land use change that we made was made long, long before the land use codes came about. And I'm simply asking for help from the commissioners. We pleaded with you to have a hearing. This is 1% of the documentation and the unethical treatment we've been through. And we would love to just sit with you and present this to you. And it will take time to do that. Let me assure you, we have volumes of documentation and volumes of recorded messages that this is the way we've been treated. We're just trying to be a healthy business. We're just trying to run a business, and we don't know what to do at this point. You know, our most valuable export from this county is our children. And with this sort of thing, the approvals that have been made were deep, people with huge wealth behind them. How are our kids ever going to start a business in this county unless they bring millions into this county? That's why our kids have to leave to go somewhere else. And this is part of it. We've got barriers in front of our kids now that they cannot stay in this county. And they cannot, and in our case, we cannot comply here. There's no way to comply.
Mr. Austin, tell you what I'd like to do at this point, because there is no permit, there's no action before the board.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
We need you to fill out whatever permit you think is applicable here with consultation with the planning director.
I have asked for that, and they
Okay.
say they.
I saw that note.
Okay.
So that's what has to happen next. So we need to have an action before us. We can't just unilaterally act on this.
Okay, how do I ask for grandfathering? There is no system,
Work
there is
with-
no form to ask
Work
for
with Mr.
grandfathering.
Gardner. Okay,
We've tried that.
okay, that's the avenue. Okay, and if we need to schedule a work session, we can do so, but there has to be an action. We can't just sit up here and make a decision.
So I'm put in catch-22 where there's no way for me to ask you for grandfathering. There's no way for me to ask you for help. So I've got to go back into
Okay,
a
if-
process, which I
I need to
respect.
document that, sir.
Okay, oh, I've got plenty of
Okay, that's
documentation.
fine. But there has to be an action.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else this morning like to visit with the commissioners? Anybody online?
No, sir.
Thank you. We'll go to County Clerk, Ms. Stevenson.
I wanted to speak.
I'm sorry,
I wanted to speak.
I don't know who this
that's
is.
Natasha. Okay, Natasha, go ahead.
Thanks. I'm trying to get my video to work, but it's not.
Okay, I'll unmute you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
There you go.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Commissioners. Natasha Leger with Citizens for a Healthy Community. It's good to see you this morning. I'm here to, excuse me, talk about your support letter for the SPEED Act. But first, I wanted to talk about, Commissioner Kuntz, your comments at the Garnet Mesa solar ribbon cutting last week. I really appreciated those comments. You talking about how that project represented the future of Delta County, not only in terms of clean energy, but in terms of collaboration between local government, community, and the applicant. I think you're absolutely right. And therefore, I find it ironic looking at your support letter. So I've got some questions. One is, have any of you read the SPEED Act?
This is time for you to visit with us, Natasha. You know, we don't respond.
All right. Well, then I'm assuming that you haven't read the SPEED Act because I wanted to call to your attention some things that are not in your letter that I think are really relevant to you as Delta County, and I think how you view your interaction with the community. What's not in the letter that is in the SPEED Act is that the SPEED Act limits local government input on federal projects. It limits community voices. There's no obligation to consider new information after the application is submitted. There's no discretion to the agency to make changes and account for changes that have occurred environmentally or in the community. Any delays on deadlines are to be approved by the applicant, so there's no discretion for the agency. So I want to really convey to you that what is being touted as permitting reform, bipartisan or otherwise, this act really goes to silencing the ability of local government and communities to have a say in their future. And I would encourage you to revisit your support letter and acknowledge those pieces that at a minimum, what you are not supporting is a silencing of local government voices and community voices. I'm happy to talk to you more about this. I think this is a really important topic, really important for the future of Delta County, and I welcome that opportunity.
Thank you for your comments this morning, Ms. Leger.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else online?
No.
Just a point of interest, the 4-H kids have been caught at their schools and so they will not be in, but they did want to convey their thanks during National 4-H Week, and they did present you each with a thank you gift.
Good to know. Thank you. At this point, we'll go to Ms. Stevenson, County Clerk.
Good morning, Commissioners. This morning I have the minutes for the September 16th Boulder County Commissioner regular meeting. Were there any changes, deletions, or corrections?
I saw it.
All good.
Thank you. I also have the minutes for the September 22nd, 2025 Board of County Commissioners special meeting. Were there any changes, deletions, or corrections on that?
Zero.
Okay, thank you. I also have this morning your consideration of a hotel and restaurant liquor license for SFR Operations LLC doing business as the Dinner Bell Restaurant at Smith Fork Ranch located at 45362 Needle Rock Road in Crawford. At this time, I've received all necessary documentations, fees, and publications have been made. I have also contacted the sheriff and he has no problems with this renewal, so therefore I would recommend the renewal of this hotel and restaurant license.
Commissioners, any questions on this one?
Hotel and restaurant liquor license for SFR Operations LLC doing business as Dinner Bell Rest at Smith Fork Ranch located at 45362 Needle Rock Road, Crawford, Colorado.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So done.
Thank you, I appreciate
All good?
it. Yes.
Okay. Ms. Robbie?
Okay, first item of business then, a consideration and chair signature on the intergovernmental agreement between Delta County and the town of Hotchkiss regarding the funding via the state Homeland Security Grant. Chris Stewart, OEM, is normally here to provide the detail. He is at another meeting. This is the program that Delta County is in cooperation with San Miguel County and other counties. Then this is the West All Hazard region and they're local. The town of Hotchkiss and Hotchkiss PD Department, as well as emergency management, identified the gaps for this IGA for the funding of additional equipment for the town of Hotchkiss.
Questions on this one, gentlemen?
No.
I will make a motion that we approve an intergovernmental agreement between Delta County and the town of Hotchkiss regarding funding by the state Homeland Security Grant. And authorize the chair to sign.
Thank you.
Just as a addition, then County Attorney John Bear will also be signing this form.
In addition to County Attorney John Bear's signature.
I second that.
Any further discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Have we got a copy here?
Want to hand it to John?
No, we are. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, next for your consideration then is to adopt and designate the KBH Center at 455 Palmer Street, Delta, to the Historic Landmark Register. And I believe we have a presentation. Correct? Lindsay? Yes.
Is there anybody here representing KBH today or the historic committee?
Okay. I'm sorry, we were.
And this is done by resolution. And what number is it?
And this will be 37.
I move that we approve resolution number 2025R-37. Resolution designated the KBH Center 455 Palmer to the Historic Landmark Registry.
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion?
The Chairman, it might be noted that on the application, this application from the Historic Landmark Board was presented also to the city of Delta, and it bears the signature of the city manager. An important detail, since this property is in the city limits of the city of Delta.
Okay, any further discussion, gentlemen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I did not know that was historic structure, so.
It wasn't until about 10 seconds ago.
Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Next on our agenda, gentlemen, is a letter of support to Chairman Bruce Westerman on the Committee for Committee on Natural Resources in the House of Representatives. In our package, you'll see a brief outline of this. It's called the SPEED Act, Standardizing, Permitting, and Expediting Economic Development Act. This is a bipartisan bill that is being run to de-weaponize the NEPA. In our packet also is a letter of support that I developed. I hope you guys have had a chance to read it. Is there any questions on this?
I have none.
It'd be my recommendation to the board that we approve this letter of support and get it sent out today.
I will make a motion that we approve this letter of call this a
Letter of support.
letter of support for in reference to HR 4776, the Standardizing, Permitting, and Expediting Economic Development Act.
I second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So done. I have a copy here.
Okay.
You want to sign one?
Yeah, or you can.
We'll sign one for you. Back to you, Robbie.
Okay, next on your agenda, then Lindsay will review your schedule through the end of November or October, please.
Morning, commissioners. Today, nothing else on the calendar. Tomorrow we have CEU Wednesday. After that, UFO RMP Amendment Cooperating Agency Meeting number 5.
That has been canceled due to the federal government shutdown.
Thank you. The 9th, briefing on CEO renewable energy siting.
Lindsay, can we go back to the 8th? At 5:30 Heritage Hall, Delta Health is having an open house town hall. I plan on going. I didn't know if any of the other commissioners were going.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Skip to the 14th. For commissioners, next regular scheduled meeting. Work session with Road and Bridge at 1:30, and then the Republican Party meeting.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it was moved from, is that right? Like,
Oh, the Republican meeting, yeah, but, Road and Bridge.
That should be on the 21st.
I'm sorry, yes, sure. The 21st, we have, so then the Board of Road and Bridge, and then the Board of Health. And then the 23rd is the R10 Board Exec Committee meeting. We had a couple additions this morning, so October 29th and 30th, 8 to 5 will be the departmental budget meetings. And that should round out.
And there was budget meetings the 29th and 30th.
And the 30th, 8 to 5.
Okay.
And then the 30th is Main Street trick or treat. I'm sure you all will be
I already got my costume on.
there. Anything else?
Did you miss anything, gentlemen?
I didn't see anything that you missed.
Yeah, good.
Good job.
Thank you, Lindsay. That takes us to our jail reports. Delta County Detention Facility population count for Sunday, September 21, 2025. Male inmates 42, female inmates 2, male inmates Department of Corrections 1, female inmates Department of Corrections 1, total 46. Average daily inmate population for the week of September 15 through 21 was 51.51. The detention facility population count report for Sunday, September 28th, 2025. Male inmates County Jail 41, female inmates County Jail 3, male inmates Department of Corrections 1, female inmates Department of Corrections 1, for a total of 46. The average daily inmate population for September 22 through 28 was 51.0. This time we'd like to, it's one of the better things we get to do, is our service award recognitions. If I could have Jose Gonzalez, Eric Romish, and Ted Cunningham come join us up front here. Yes. Get her here. So everybody knows during the LaRue fire, Ted was up on a dozer, pushing lines, making sure that that fire did not get out of control. He was up there for 3 days straight. Yeah. Putting his own self at risk and saving our community and our forest and private property, from a devastating wildfire. We saw what happened at the Lee Creek Fire and the Elk Fire up around Meeker. That could have been us. So I want to say thank you to Ted. Appreciate what you did for us. And I hope you know we recognize and appreciate what you do. Thank you much. You stand right here.
We gotta have a picture.
Oh, look at Mindy. Is there anything you'd like to add? No. Sure. She's kind of like a National Geographic. Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
And, hold on. This is 10 years for Deputy Romish up here. Is your family here?
They are.
You gotta get them up here.
Sheriff's got my son.
Well, Sheriff, come on up too. We really appreciate you bringing, yes. One of the reasons Deputy Romish worked so hard is standing right here beside you. We really appreciate all the hard work you have done for our community. So thank you for 10 years. We hope it's another 10 years for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And introduce your family.
Daughter Aubrey and my son Landon
Welcome.
and my boss Sheriff. Yeah, Grandpa Sheriff.
You want to hold your daughter so she can see?
Yeah.
Dr. Booth. Thank you.
Hi, Aubrey.
Okay.
I can take it.
Mhm.
You never know if they're good, so you just have to keep taking some more. Okay, thank
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
And Sheriff, I didn't know you had a part-time daycare.
Move it on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez. Okay, here you. Mr. Gonzalez is also celebrating 10 years with us. We appreciate all the hard work you put into Delta County. Let's give him. Bring your family? No. You want to recruit some while we're married? Sure. I'll keep the sheriff's. Wish she is ready, isn't she?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Terry wants another thing.
And he met with Jose as well.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
yeah.
Steve, that family. I do.
You.
Yes.
Thank you, Terry.
The next thing on our agenda today is a proposed budget. It starts at 9:05. We'll take just a short recess till 9:05, about 6 minutes. We'll be extending, possibly extending. Let me put some background to this. On April of last year, the Colorado State Legislature approved 5 drugs as a natural medicine, and those are psilocybin, psilocin, dimethyltryptamine, ibogaine, and mescaline. Those have been identified as a natural medicine. On April 1st of this year, Delta County elected to put a moratorium on any registered healing centers to distribute and apply these drugs. We have been working on land use regulations that would apply to how these drugs would be used for the time of day for operations and other regulations that would apply to how these drugs are administered. And the emergency responses that they would need for these healing centers. This does not apply to acupuncture or tinctures, yoga, herbal remedies, massage therapy, spa therapy, or anything of that nature. What I'd like to do now is open the floor up to anybody, a public hearing that would like to discuss this with the commissioners. What we are considering today is extending the moratorium for another 6 months to April 1st of 2026. So if you'd like to speak to this, please come forward, introduce yourself, and make sure the mic is on. Seeing none in the room, is there anybody online, Lindsay?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll put out one more call. Would anybody like to comment on the extension of the moratorium on these natural medicines as defined as psilocybin, psilocin, dimethyltryptamine, ibogaine, and mescaline? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Gentlemen, in our packet is a resolution for continuing a temporary moratorium on the acceptance, processing, and approval of applications for the establishment of any businesses that cultivates, processes, or dispenses natural medicines, and the establishment of any business, occupation, or operation of healing centers. It'd be my recommendation to this board that we extend this temporary moratorium until such time as our land use regulations are complete. Discussion.
I have no discussion. I think it's the move we need to take, so. If you have anything else to add, I will, what resolution are we on now?
38.
38, okay. I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2025 R38. A resolution continuing a temporary moratorium on the submission, acceptance, processing, and application of applications for the establishment of any business that cultivates, processes, or dispenses natural medicine, and the establishment of any business, occupation, or operation of healing centers.
I second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so done. Do we have that available? Okay. We're going to recess again until 10 o'clock for planning. At that time, we will take up 3 items. Project 24052 Honey Rock LLC for conditional use permit. PLN 25020 Rick Ranches on a driveway offset standard. And the Blakefield Apron possible award for maintenance. Harry, Lindsay, you guys ready? It is 10 o'clock. We're going to come back on the record. It is time for planning. I will turn this over to Mr. Gardner.
This morning, we have an application for Honey Rock LLC. Honey Rock is applying for a conditional use permit for a guest ranch, lodging facilities, RV campground, restaurant, and event venue. The property is located on 2 parcels in the Dominguez Canyon. that total about 118 acres, with about 90 acres in orchard. Dominguez Canyon Road is about 14 miles from downtown Delta on Highway 50, and you turn off on Dominguez Canyon Road, and it's about 3 miles down the road after you exit the highway. It passes by 2 residences off of Groves Road. You can see marked up there in yellow. And then there are 2 more orchards past Honey Rock on Dominguez Canyon Road with residences, and another residence past Honey Rock. We'll do a little quick review of various facilities and activities that are being applied for by the developer, and then I'll go over our findings according to the land use code and highlight some special issues of consideration for the board. And then we'll go over the recommended conditions of approval based on your approval. Overall, the proposed site plan is here at kind of the bottom third of the subject property. In the red area is the area where there's guest lodging and event and dining space. And the pink area over by the Gunnison River there is the proposed wedding site. And the area outlined in aqua blue is a proposed glamping and RV site that's on top of a hilltop there that overlooks the orchard. That's off to the west. And there's a hill to the east of that aqua area that kind of separates that area from visibility from Dominguez Canyon Road. Just to give you an idea of how the landscape, the terrain is out there. The yellow area is a proposed RV campsite next to the Gunnison River, and I have a few more things to say about that as we go on. Each use in itself required no more than a limited use permit, but taken all together, I elevated it to a conditional use permit for public comment, PC's review, and your review. The guest lodging area there's a picture, a recent picture from a newspaper article. The Chamber of Commerce they had an event with the Chamber of Commerce out there, and so that gives you an idea of what the interior looks like. They're built into a sandstone hillside, and in that sandstone hillside, there's this dining area. There's a cold storage facility, and half of that cold storage facility is also an area where they do fruit packing, and they can use it for events, and adjacent to that is an outdoor patio area for dining purposes. There are 6 cave suites with kitchenettes being proposed. There's a cave house that has 2 rooms, and above that cave house would be these 2 above ground cliff suites. And the total number of guest lodging rooms would be 10. And would be open 9 months per year for 39 weeks approximately, and an estimate of anywhere from 2 to 90 guests per week in those facilities. The next area is the glamping and RV sites. So again, in the aqua blue area is up on a hillside overlooking the orchard. There are 9 glamping sites along the hilltop rim, and then 5 RV sites adjacent to that on the hilltop that would share 2 bathhouse facilities.
Could you give us a definition of glamping so we're all on the same page?
Glamping is a combination of glamour and camping. So glamorous camping. So there, I believe maybe on the next slide, I have an example of like a tent that's there, which the developer provided a picture to kind of give you an idea of the concept. So glamorous camping.
Okay, thank you.
The aqua area, like I said, sits on top of a hilltop overlooking the orchard. It's shielded from visibility from Dominguez Canyon Road because there's a rise in the landscape to the east of that, between that area and the road. The yellow area, where there's a proposed 5 RV campsites along the river, is in a floodplain. And so, again, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Taking a look at what this all means in terms of capacity and occupancy and services. The glamping area would be composed of a total of 9 sites. It could be, each site could have 9 guests or occupants per night. A maximum capacity then for that whole glamping area would be 36 guests per night. Again, they'll be using 2 shared bathhouses. And there is a designated parking area, that gray area that's up there. The aerial view is all road and parking area. The RV sites that are proposed to have power and water hookups, but no dump stations will be provided. The RV site that's to the right on the hill next to the glamping area would share the bathhouses with the glamping sites. And the RV site by the river that's on the left is proposed to have a bathhouse down nearby it, but above base flood elevation.
Could you go back one, please?
Yeah,
On that diagram on the right, there's a blue rectangle. What is that?
so where it says S, those are the 5 campsites, and then there's actually an earth berm that's
Kind of in that
to the
yellow
right of
green.
that, and then those are storage, I think, containers.
Okay,
So they're kind of storing all of their farm equipment and supplies back behind this berm.
okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Community events that are proposed are, well, they currently have had some community events, like the Chamber of Commerce event they had out, and some farm to table dinners with people that have been a part of helping them to develop the farm and so on. But future proposed community events are anywhere from 15 to 13 events annually. And attendance ranging from 35 to 100 guests per event. Also, they're proposing to have farm to table dinners, 39 weeks of the year, 1 event each week, with guests numbering anywhere from 8 to 50 guests per event. And then for 3 days per week for 6 weeks annually, they are proposing UPIC program with attendance being anywhere from 35 to 100 guests per day. So those are some of the events that are proposed, and obviously people that are renting the facilities can also participate in any of those events. In terms of the land use code and our findings there, just to note also, no limits or parameters have been proposed for hours, nor a max number of people per event, nor a maximum events per year necessarily. These are just projections. So there's no proposal for like max hours capacity or max number of events. Recent event venues that we've had come through here have limited themselves in these regards to avoid traffic impact implications with CDOT and or neighbors. So I just wanted to note that. In general, this proposed development aligns very well with the master plan in terms of the county's core values of supporting agriculture and agritourism. In terms of the land use proposed, the proposed activities, lodging, campgrounds, and events, all are permissible on private property in A35 zoning in Delta County, provided they have adequate water, meet sanitation and access requirements, and don't pose undue environmental or public health and safety issues that cannot be mitigated. In the staff report, the relevant sections of the land use code that pertain to the proposed uses have been cited and accounted for. The regulatory standards have either been met or are addressed in the draft conditions of approval. So let's go ahead and look at the code and what's been accounted for along the way and discuss some of the conditions that are recommended to mitigate the impacts. First, chapter 2, zoning district and land use by zoning district, all of the, like I said, all the proposed activities are permissible in the 35 zoning district. Special event standards have either been accounted for or applied in the conditions, draft conditions of approval. In chapter 2, it also has campground regulations. The, like I said, for the RV site by the river is prohibited in the regulations because it's in floodplain. And it references the state statute, and which also does not allow campgrounds in floodplain. In terms of chapter 3, lots, buildings, and structures, all structures meet required setbacks. The wedding site that's near the river in the most recent site plan has been, the dimensions have been provided to show that it'd be set back 50 feet from the river as required. In chapter 4 of the site design, roads, access, and circulation have been reviewed by engineering and approved. All gas units have approximately appropriately sized parking areas with designated ADA spots. GIS has provided instructions for road naming and addressing. With regard to geologic hazards, the developer provided some really excellent erosion, stormwater, and drainage reports and geotechnical and soils reports that account for the mitigation of potential hazards and the proper movement of stormwater. In terms of environmental quality, the developer submitted approved stormwater management plan, dust control plan, and county exterior lighting requirements are in the draft conditions of approval. Here, I'll also comment that this chapter of the land use code speaks about floodplain. So you have 3 proposed developments in the floodplain here. One is the boat ramp. The other is the RV campsite by the river, and the third is the wedding site by the river. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers provided the following comment in relation to the construction near the river. They said, given the location of this project in close proximity to the Gunnison River, it is likely that these construction activities may impact waters of the United States, including wetlands. Honey Rock LLC should request a pre-application consultation from this office prior to construction. So the developer has a water infrastructure engineer working with the Army Corps of Engineers as requested. The developments, again, that are subject to this review by the Corps of Engineers are the boat ramp, which already exists. It's a simple sloped ramp with pit run next to the river pump that services the orchard. So it's been there for.
Boat ramps kind of have to be in the floodplain.
Yeah. The wedding site, according to the most recent site plan, is set back, 50 feet from the river. So if you look at the wetlands maps, there's a margin of wetlands that runs up along that side of the river, but determining exactly where the boundaries of that are require, a site visit and some analysis, but it's also coterminous with the floodplain. So one of the draft conditions of approval is that all developments in the special flood hazard area shall obtain a floodplain development permit, which would also entail a review by the Army Corps of Engineers. But we could make that more explicit by adding and approval by the Army Corps of Engineers. The RV campsite is an issue for your special consideration, whether to approve or not. I'll discuss it a little bit more in detail. I'll be recommending that it be denied based on the county and state regulations. But the owner will share some information about that, and I thought it was fair for we to have an audience with the board to make that case. Let's see, Chapter 5, Public Facilities, Infrastructure, and Services. traffic impacts. As usual, traffic impacts are an issue that for the board's consideration. Most of the public comments are concerned about impacts on the road. In terms of water supply, the water decree for the subject property would appear to have sufficient rights to supply water for the proposed facilities and uses. However, the current well permits do not align with or adequately cover the proposed developments and uses. They have submitted an application to the Department of Natural Resources for a change to their underground water rights and are requesting approval of a plan for augmentation. The previous rights already captured 90% of the proposed uses, and the new application includes provision for a natural pond and greenhouse use requiring an additional 2 acre-feet of water. So in the draft conditions, condition 7A, that prior to operations, they must obtain DNR approval of change to underground water rights and augmentation. In terms of wastewater disposal, septic systems are already permitted for the 4 cave suites and the 2-bedroom cave house. Any other facilities would obviously need to get obtain septic permits, and that's accounted for in the draft conditions 7B. With regard to fire protection, we received recommendations from the fire district, 3 recommendations, that there be a minimum of 26 feet of road width for fire trucks and other firefighting equipment, which appears to be in existence already, so that's accounted for. Installing a cistern for firefighting purposes is also a recommendation, and automatic sprinklers in all overnight guest areas is a 3rd recommendation. As a draft condition of approval, in condition 7C, required that there be a fire and emergency plan for every new facility that would be constructed, be approved prior to operating. Chapter 6, with regard to land dedication, impact fees, and development improvement agreements, no road impact fees have been applied to this project. Chapter 7, standard review process. Referrals were sent to all relevant agencies and adjacent property owners. A neighborhood meeting was conducted according to requirements, and public notice was appropriately posted. Public comments, their main concerns were dust and washboarding on the road, safety concerns on the road due to blind curves, road degradation from increased use, driving in dark after events, people that could run off the road, or noise pollution from traffic and music. Condition 5 does state the state statute for noise limits. Light pollution, and as I mentioned, we have condition number 3 that states our standards for outdoor exterior lighting. Another concern was with regard to trespassing, and the orchards past Honey Rock also expressed some concern about impacts to their business if they're hauling out fruit on the roads, if the roads were washboardy, how that could affect their pack out rate. Mitigation requests that from neighbors, neighbors suggested addressing road issues with pavement, chipping, or at a minimum mag chloride treatment. They also requested traffic signage. Those were all reviewed by county engineering, and nothing was proposed to, none of those mitigation suggestions were brought forward by county engineering for as conditions for approval. And that road receives a lot of grading throughout the year, and especially before, during, and just after fruit harvest. And so the application of mag chloride to hopefully stabilize, some of the dust was seen as probably a loss, just because of the grading that would take place subsequent to application.
Does that road get back chloride?
It does not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
So, that covers kind of the land use code. Some special issues of consideration are the water supply. So I think we accounted for that in condition 7A, that basically prior to operations need to obtain a Department of Natural Resources approval to change the underground water rights and augmentation plan, which is underway. They've submitted an application and have provided that to us. Fire emergency mitigation plan or emergency plan prior to operations, fire protection, and emergency response plan would be required. Traffic impacts, CDOT somehow misplaced our first email when we sent it out to referral agencies, and so they were pretty late in responding. And then subsequently, we're reviewing it over and over again, but basically, the intersection out there off Highway 50, they determined that the turn lane lengths are substandard. I said, despite what the study says, because I'm referring to the level 1 traffic study from the developer that's stated that the turn lanes were up to standards. CDOT says that they're not. It's unclear. They said if sight distance to the northwest is adequate because of a substandard acceleration lane, and CDOT will require a level 2 traffic study to permit. So that's a requirement of condition 6 is to obtain the CDOT access permit from the highway. Any questions about that?
Gotcha. Mike, Greg?
That was a little surprise because it's a very big highway intersection with acceleration and deceleration turn lanes and everything. But when you come out and onto the highway and you look to the north, it's hard to, the line of sight's not very far because there's a big hill there. Nothing much you can do about that. And then there's the question about the acceleration lane, which you go out across traffic and you start heading towards Junction, whether or not that acceleration is, the lane is long enough. Since I drive by it every day, I can see that there's a huge area where you can just move the yellow line and make it longer. So that may be a possible easy resolution to that, but
Well, CDOT's kind of responsible for that, aren't they? That's they rebuilt the highway.
they did. And they evidently built it substandard. Which they said can happen due to budget constraints or some other reasons, or maybe the use at the time and so forth. But there are fruit trucks already, pulling in and out of there all the time, crossing the highway and accelerating. Both directions. Okay. The last thing is the RV campsite by the river. The state regulations, early on in receiving this application, I made it known to the applicants that this would very likely be denied. But I felt like it was fair to take it through the process and let them present, the case to you, reasoning for and justification for allowing it. But the land use code includes by reference the state regulations providing the standards for the campground. State regs say the site shall not be located in an area subject to periodic flooding, nor located adjacent to such locations which would constitute a health or safety hazard. County regs state the site shall not be located in an area subject to periodic flooding. Periodic in this case is any area located in a FEMA designated special flood hazard area. So based on the regs, I have to recommend denial of this RV site. I did speak to CDPHE, which these Colorado regulations are under. And they have precedents of deferring to local jurisdictions to exercise cautious discretion with documented mitigation measures for allowing these sorts of things. And I have provided to the commissioners, some recommended conditions if you were to approve. So I can move on then to the conditions of approval if you'd like, and then, would you like to go through those or not?
We will. Let me stop here and see if the commissioners have any questions or comments.
Several questions, but I think might be answered once the applicant
Yep.
has his say.
Chair, can I just ask one clarification of Mr. Gardner, wedding site? Is that an outdoor wedding site or is it including indoor building?
It's an outdoor wedding site. The proposed plan has a glass, greenhouse as like the facility, I suppose, in which a wedding would occur.
Gotcha, thank you.
Commissioner Fuller, any questions, comments before we move on? Sean, I had one question on the floodplain map. Is this the most recent one FEMA has developed, or is this prior to last year's update?
Both have the area in the floodplain. And there was a preliminary floodplain analysis and provided by a professional engineer. It's a draft floodplain report.
Is that the Western Heritage map?
Yep, that one. Which may be the basis of a letter of map revision that they're applying for. But nonetheless, even with that, all those developments are in the floodplain.
Okay. And then the other question I had is the cave apartments or guest lodging what is a house?
Well, I bet the applicant would be better for that.
We'll hold on that one then. Thank you. Go ahead with conditions of approval.
Okay. Number one, project 2452 is approved for a guest ranch, lodging, and RV park campground, a restaurant, and an event venue at the property located on parcels cited. Operations shall be in accordance with the approved plans and supplemental documentation to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Development, including but not limited to the Honey Rock Landing narrative and the Honey Rock Landing master site plan. Any significant modification shall require an amendment to be considered by the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. And two, plants identified in the Colorado Mountain Weed Act, the standard one that we have. Number three, outdoor lighting should be hooded and shielded, cut off so as to not cast light or glare onto adjacent properties or upwards in a manner that dilutes the night sky. Number four, the venue owner shall comply with the Colorado state liquor laws. Number five, the operation shall not exceed noise thresholds set by the statute cited. Maximum permissible noise levels, which limits commercial use to a sound level of 60 decibels during the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 55 decibels during the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. at 25 feet from the property boundary. Number six, a level 2 traffic study shall be completed that provides peak hour volume and turn lane analysis, site distance analysis, background traffic growth, distribution, etc. per the TDOT levels of study memo. An address permit or an access permit at Highway 50 would be required from the Colorado Department of Transportation for the development. And prior to operations, the developer shall provide the county with a copy of the finalized CDOT access. Number seven, prior to the operation of each recreation and hospitality facility and activity, the owner shall obtain the following final approvals related to the subject facility or activity. A, evidence of adequate water supply that is sufficient in terms of quality, quantity, and dependability approved by Delta County Public Health. B, completed OWTS permits from Delta County Public Health. C, completed access permits from Delta County Engineering. D, site construction approval from Delta County Planning. E, fire emergency plan approval from Delta County Planning. Number 8, the owner shall submit an annual report to the county by January 15th of each year to include the number of events held, number of attendees, review the decibel logs, responses to any complaints, any proposed changes to operations or site plans to ensure compliance with the permit. This will also include an annual site visit to review the property and conditions of the permit issue. And number 9, all developments in the special flood hazard area shall obtain a floodplain development. Oh. With that, staff recommends that, well, staff finds that Honey Rock LLC complies with the land use code for guest ranch, lodging, RV, campground, restaurant, and event venue requiring conditional use permit. One caveat that would be the RV site by the river. And secondly, approved project 2452 Honey Rock, a conditional use permit for guest ranch, lodging, RV park, campground, restaurant, event venue, subject to condition. That concludes my presentation.
Well, Sean, this was a very good package and had a good presentation here. You've covered a lot of ground. So obviously you and your staff have been working very hard with this.
Well, a lot of credit goes to the applicant. They put together a pretty good application.
So, before we go to the applicant, I'd like to see if commissioners or anybody have questions to you on anything's presented so far. Commissioner Lane?
Can they raise the floodplain where the RV sites would be in the floodplain to comply?
You mean raise the RV pads?
Yeah,
Um,
that whole area, can they put a foot of dirt in there and raise it, or will it have to be 6 feet high?
There would have to be a determination of the base flood elevation, and then I suppose you could always bring in as much dirt as you need to get up above that. However, I don't know if that is, that would meet the regulatory restrictions of not having things in a floodplain. Like we do permit things in floodplains if like structures are a foot above the base flood elevation, or if, you know, for example, septic systems that go in are watertight and built so that the soil absorption area, the infiltrated surface is also a foot above the floodplain area. So there's precedent for permitting things in a floodplain area. I think that there's 2 considerations in building in the floodplain. Is one, contamination of surface water. That's why it's under CDPHE. They want to make sure that you're not doing something that's going to put waste in the water.
Mhm.
Number 2 is public health or public safety, you know, in the event of like a flash flood. I mean, an RV park presumably can hook up and pull out, you know, it's not like a fixed structure. But those are the 2 concerns: environmental health and public safety.
Okay,
Anything else, Mike?
no, not right now.
Commissioner Fuller?
I'm ready for the applicants.
Okay. Mr. Barrett?
Sure, I'll have some comments whenever you think that's appropriate.
Go ahead if you'd like, while they're fresh on your mind.
I have those.
I was gonna say, he's written everything down.
I think this is a wonderfully fun and exciting event venue out there in the canyon. My comments will only be towards the RV park, the camp RV park in the floodplain. I'm going to respectfully disagree with Mr. Gardner. I don't think the board even has discretion to approve this. The board is bound by the land use code. And the land use code says this is not allowed. So I have been recently made aware of this. I think my recommendation, if I had been in this conversation longer, would be this should not have even, this part of it, just the RV lot, it's just the RV camp. Should not even have got to the board. It should have been stricken from, because it's not a possibility. So in the strongest terms possible, I'm gonna recommend you deny that. I don't think you can approve it. I think it's that's the legal part of it. I think the liability that you would be potentially bringing onto the county is excessive. Everyone is familiar with the horrible tragedy of recent flooding down in Texas and that sort of thing. That was done because that was built in a floodplain and it was allowed to be built in a floodplain. So I think the liability exposure to the county is potentially astronomical. I think just practically speaking, it just doesn't make any sense. That the legal part of it is A, I don't think you have the discretion to do it, and B, the liability would be very high. So I'm gonna recommend that you don't even consider an RV campground in a flood. So everything else, right, wonderful, have fun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Robbie, anything to add at this point?
Not at this point.
Thank you. We'll ask the proponent, whoever's representing the proponent this morning, would you please come up and see if you have anything to add or provide light on for the commissioners?
Absolutely. Where should I sit?
Right there, make sure that mic is on
Okay.
and introduce yourself.
I have a few PowerPoint slides. I think she can bring these up hopefully. And I'm Colby Barrett, the owner. My wife Leslie's here. She's more of the CEO, but I do a lot of the construction stuff, so.
And Mrs. Barrett, you're welcome to join him if you'd like.
Okay.
In terms of advancing slides, I don't know what the best, I guess I could just say next slide on these. And actually, a lot of this was in Mr. Gardner's presentation, so we'll go pretty quick. You guys have a pretty good sense of what the project is. That's me and my wife, and our kids were from Western Colorado, born and raised here. And we bought this orchard back in 2018 to really, do the agricultural piece of this, but we kept getting demand from people in the local area saying, we want to come down here, we want to experience this, we want to be here. A lot of the other farms in the canyon are really closed to visitors. And so we wanted to have a different model, one where we brought people down for U-Pick. They could stay there, they could understand how their food gets to them and really experience that kind of stuff. And everything's just been amazing so far in terms of the community response, the working with the county. It's really cemented our concept that inviting folks in to see and experience this is a good thing that people are looking for. Next slide. I won't go into this too much, but we're doing a lot of current operations with the all ag based. So farm to table dinners, we're putting in a large greenhouse so we can expand agricultural operations throughout the year. And we're also doing farm tours and these kind of things. So inviting people down, but it's all kind of day use, limited stuff. A few photos there. You can see the overview from on the top left, and then different portions of our construction operations there with one of the cave suites on the bottom right.
Speaking of the cave suites, what is a cave's house?
So we have two models of this, and actually if you go to the next slide, this shows what the cave suites look like. They're essentially cut and cover. So we blasted into the sandstone and then put a roof system on top of that. So it's a small cave. They're into the Entrada sandstone there. The larger cave house is actually a cylinder that's been blasted into the sandstone with an entrance into it and then rooms off of that. The model for that one is from the way that Berber people live in northern Tunisia. And if you've ever watched Star Wars, you've seen Luke Skywalker's house in Tatooine. That was actually filmed in northern Tunisia. So it's a way that people that live in similar climates kind of live with that. So that was the model for what we're doing. I'm also a geotechnical engineer, so doing stuff with dirt and rock is kind of the way I see the world. So this was it's also a way to build down there without putting a bunch of stuff on the skyline. Everything we do blends into the hillsides there. And it also helps with energy bills. It's always kind of cool when it's hot out and warm when it's cold out. So it's kind of a nice way to live in that climate in a comfortable way. Next slide.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so a lot of this stuff is dual purpose too. So our packing facility is chipped into the bedrock, but it's also a really good place for farm to table dinners. We've done fundraisers for, who have we done them for? Colorado Canyons, Food Bank of the Rockies. Other nonprofits love to host events down there, so. Kids camp stuff. Let's see. Mr. Gardner kind of went through this stuff, the cave suites and those kind of things. We can just keep kind of moving forward. Yep, there's the house. And house is, it's just the Tunisian word for courtyard. So that was kind of our branding on that. Next slide. Totals, Mr. Gardner already went through that. Okay, so this is something I thought was, when we talk about like scale versus what would be allowed by right. We have 4 tax parcels here. If we went to the total number of rentable rooms allowed by right for these properties, it'd be 16 by right. We're asking for 10. So it's a little lower than what could be done there. Now, of course, where those parcels are and where the rooms are don't exactly match up, but this was just something I thought was relevant for scope and scale. Let's see. I think we can skip through these. These are we talked about county services. Next slide. Site maintenance, obviously, we're gonna be making sure that maintenance and dust control happen during construction. Keep going forward if you would. Yeah, sorry, a lot of this is already in Mr. Gardner's stuff there. We can keep going. This is all in here. Okay, so addressing some of the concerns from neighbors and from the planning commission. Let's see, number 1 was road safety. I think the next slide has that. So 2 of the things we talked a little bit about, we would be big proponents of anything that the county can do to help with washboarding, mac chloride or chip seal and those kind of things. We're also proposing to add a sign in at the turnoff from the main road and Groves Road. That's where I think most people get confused. There's kind of a Y. That would be something that we would work with the neighbors on. We've talked with all the neighbors about this, and we would propose a sign there, as well as, get all their approval before we put that up. There was some discussion about speed limit signs on the road, which we would also be, it probably won't do much good, but it might do some good. So we would be proponents of that. Next slide. Property line identification. We don't want folks wandering off our property onto adjacent private land. So that would be something that would be done with fencing, information about where to go and where not to go. Most of the land that borders us is View Rec and BLM, but there is private land bordering us. So that would be a big thing that we would make sure our guests knew about. Noise level. So this is one, I guess, one of the all the conditions that the planning commission pushed forward all make sense. This is one we would propose a bit of a nuance to. There's a discussion about decibel logs, which I think implies us measuring decibel levels at different places. There's not much information on that. We went and did kind of an analysis of if we had, a Metallica concert at our place and you went to the nearest residence, what would that look like? Just kind of as to take this, really, probably too far. And I think we got to at 115 decibels, which is like Red Rocks. By the time we got to the nearest residence, to be about 55 decibels, which is actually what I'm speaking at right now. And so we went and then looked at the code and basically said, when we talk about measuring noise levels, 600 feet is kind of the magic distance. And so what we would propose is to say, we will obviously comply with all the requirements of noise, but to actually have to maintain decibel logs, we would propose that would only happen if somebody built a residence within 600 feet of us. So not saying we wouldn't comply, just we would propose not actively tracking that unless there's some kind of issue.
600 feet from property line? Or-
From property line, yeah, right now it's 3,000 feet. So the nearest residence. Can you go to the next slide? Sorry. And we actually took this one step further. We hosted our first wedding this last weekend, right? Leslie was out there and on the dance floor, we were 81.9 decibels. So we were not able to reach Red Rocks level noise. But then Leslie drove to Groves Road, which is the intersection where the nearest neighbor lives down that road, and it was at 21.7 decibels, which is like a mosquito. So not to say that the noise isn't an issue. People live in the canyon because it's quiet and it's nice. Our only nuance would be to say, let's not have to actively track that noise unless there's either complaints or somebody's within 600 feet. That's one proposal we had. Next slide. Light pollution all makes sense. It's dark sky. We want it to be dark as well. Water rights, this is all in process. We don't see any issues with this. We just had to do some minor changes to our water rights to get the additional uses in there. Next slide. Wetlands. Jonathan, we talked with Army Corps.
Yeah, we had a preliminary consult.
And so they're proposing no need for anything there, but we're in with the Army Corps to make sure we're compliant. Okay, so the biggest piece though is the RV site. And I agree with both Mr. Gardner and the county attorney that campgrounds are not allowed in floodplain areas. However, we're not proposing a campground, and that's a key difference in your code. Next slide. Okay, so I just basically went through, in a previous life, I went to law school, so I can feel like I can read legislation pretty well, but the next slide shows in your land use code, a campground and an RV park are separately defined. They're different things. They're mentioned that they're similar, but they are not the same thing. If you go to the next slide. Recreational vehicles are specifically shown in what they are, but the key here is they have their own motive power, or they're mounted on a vehicle that has its own motive power. So they're by definition mobile, not like a tent, not like a yurt, not like a tiny home. Next slide. And so if you think of this, campground can be, as by definition, cabins, tents, yurts, as well as vehicles that have their own motive source. An RV park is only vehicles that have their own motive source, right? So those two are similar in some ways. There is a Venn diagram overlap, but an RV park is different than a campground. Next slide. So if you look, campgrounds are specifically prohibited in your land use code from being in a floodplain, and that's why we're not proposing a campground. An RV park, though, is not prohibited by the land use code. And if you go into the floodplain definitions, it's really interesting to see there's no discussion of campgrounds in the floodplain because you can't have a campground in a floodplain. However, RV parks or RV recreational vehicles are specifically discussed. And so basically it defines what it is. And then the next slide shows the things that have to, sorry, that's not the right slide, but in that code, it also shows what the safety measures are if you're going to have a recreational vehicle in a floodplain. It's very clearly defined. Next slide. Yeah, so this kind of goes through that same thing. Campgrounds, the difference between those. Next slide. Yeah, and so this is in the floodplain requirements. RVs are to be on the site less than 180 consecutive days, which we would meet. Fully licensed, ready for highway use, we would meet, or be anchored, which we would not approach that. But this is an either or kind of concept. We would not propose anchoring these RVs. So when we talk about ensuring compliance with county and state regulations, we would say this cannot be a campground. So cabins, tents, yurts in the RV park by the river, not allowed. It can only be an RV park. All RV in the park can't exceed the 180 days by regulation, fully licensed and ready to go. And then I think that Mr. Gardner proposed some additional requirements that would say if there is an elevated flood risk, that can't be used. So basically saying if we're in flood conditions, there's nothing down there. If a flood comes out of nowhere, we'd be able to get them out, and I'll show on maps why that kind of makes sense as well. So this is we had the entire river near there sounded, as well as LiDAR scan of all the topo. Western Heritage did a new floodplain analysis here, which we're submitting to FEMA. Again, it does show that this river, RV park is barely in the floodplain. But the entire egress is outside of that. And we look at what the depth is, it's about 2 feet would be the level of river, rise here in a 100-year event. And so one of the questions would be to say, can you just raise everything up 2 feet? The amount of material for that large of an area would be prohibitively difficult. It also, when we bring in that much material, it changes the hydrodynamics as well. So there's some unintended consequences as well. But what we're saying is that we're about 150 feet into this floodplain. The entire egress is safe. And worst case, if you just left all the RVs, it's a couple feet. This isn't like, 8 or 20 feet coming through. Next slide. And this is, not to say that previous requirements are relevant here, but there's a multitude of RV parks in floodplain in both this county and surrounding counties. Next slide. Okay, that's it. So really the point is not to say that the county commissioners should break any of the rules, but the concept that we are not proposing a campground, which we agree is prohibited. We are presenting an RV park, which has precedent both in previous stuff as well as in the floodplain regulations. So those are the only two, nuances we would have. Everything else seems fine. All the other, conditions are totally fine with us and stuff we were going to be doing anyway. So.
Thank you for that presentation. It's very well covered. You guys obviously have been spending a lot of time and hard work and thought putting into this. I'm going to open up to my fellow commissioners here. Mike, do you have any questions for the opponent?
Yeah, you were going to be open 9 months of the year. What months would you be closed?
The winter, it's kind of tough down there. I don't think we're gonna get a lot of guests. So what we did with all these numbers was kind of worst case scenario, which is best case for us, but maybe worst case for road traffic. We proposed that we'd have pretty active operations for 9 months. What it's really gonna look like is probably pretty dead in the winter, picking up a bit in the spring, very busy in the summer, and then a reasonable fall season, but that's what we're kind of pushing on. But we wanted to make sure that we didn't propose an impact and that the reality of that impact was much higher than what we promised the county.
So December, January, February be closed?
We'd be theoretically open, but it would be like VRBO kind of stuff. We probably wouldn't have much staff down there. We're not gonna be hosting weddings or obviously not much UPIC in those times. So the farm to table dinners would be, probably all shut down. So more like a VRBO then. People could show up, get a key code and stay in those kitchenette units.
Yes, Mike.
The U-Pick, that is just where they come and park and pick your fruit and haul it away and.
Yeah,
Okay.
we've been doing that for a couple of years now. It's been really successful. We've got large areas along the railroad track that allow for parking. And this proposal has a lot of additional parking areas as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Fuller, questions, comments?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, thank you for the presentation. You've obviously done your homework on this and you've made a lot of things really clear. So I appreciate that, working with the planning department and whatnot. I'm looking at the conditions of approval here and I'm seeing a couple of things that are kind of hitting me. Let's talk about that level 2 traffic study for just a minute. That anytime you're dealing with CDOT, you're talking about some potentially pretty heavy lifts there with them, cost wise and permit wise and all that kind of stuff. Are you prepared to deal with whatever they deem as necessary? I mean,
Yeah, we've got a traffic engineering group working with them. I think the level 2's done, right? Almost done, and they've been conferring with CDOT. It's tough. Every time you're dealing with CDOT, are they gonna say, well, we built it substandard, it's always been substandard, this is an additional thing, so it's fine? Or is it something that's kind of doable, like, improving the sight distance a bit with some clearing and grubbing? Or is it, a $5 million new interchange? We just don't know yet. So that's our push there, is to make sure we've got the right information to CDOT and see what the options are.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure if it's $5 million new interchange. We don't have that. So.
4.5 maybe?
Yeah, it's, you know, kind of on the economics of this, is one of the things that we feel the farming part can be mildly profitable, but it's really tough because there's such peaks and valleys. We freeze out, we don't freeze out. By adding agritourism, it really smooths the revenues as a business. And that's also one of the reasons that, you know, where we would push on things like the RV sites, is that if there's not a certain scale, it starts getting hard to justify staff levels. So that we think this is something that's very viable, but it's not $4.5 million intersection viable. I don't know what that number could be, but we are working actively with CDOT, and you know, hopefully we'll be able to come back with something that's, you know, common sense. So.
The other one would be in regards to the RV park and number 9 here. There's some highlights in red ink on our paper that we're looking at here that talks about the Army Corps of Engineers getting involved with the construction of the RV site, emergency plan for flood warnings, how those would be received, how they would be transmitted to the necessary people to get them out of there. And like John said, you know, with some recent memory of some pretty tragic events last summer, you know, that would be really, really important. I'm not quite sure where I land on all that quite yet, but we certainly don't want any publicity from that angle for any possible disasters that might be heading our way. You know, that river's a little different than some of the other rivers. Obviously, there's a lot of safeguards upriver, dams and so forth, and it looks like that, you said a 2 foot maybe,
Yeah.
in a 100-year event.
Depends on where you're at. It's anywhere from 1.5 to like 3 feet, what part of that RV area. So, and we certainly, I mean, we are very cautious about health and safety as well. And so, you know, we also don't want to put people at risk. So that's where there's certain times of the year there where the flood risk is elevated, and it's pretty easy to shut down that whole thing during that time. But most of the year, we don't see these crazy rises there. We've kind of gone back and looked at a lot of that flood data as well to see what the river's done. It's snow melt, you know, it's May, June timeframe, and you can pretty much predict it. So those would be times that it would be shut down.
Looked at really closely as well, you know, and our pump and our, it's, you know, it's something that we're really in tune with.
Yeah, and our manager lives right there. So there's a person there watching that would be 200 feet away from that. He's thankfully just far enough out of the floodplain to be above BFE. But it's not like it'd be some, you know, unmonitored place out in the end of the river that nobody sees, so.
That's probably the end of my concerns, questions at this point.
Okay, I had a list here. I'll go through them pretty quickly with you. Another wedding event and operations like this, there has been an hours of operation to minimize impact on surrounding neighbors. Would you be amenable to having similar hours of operation?
Obviously, my answer would be the less restrictions we can have.
I understand.
You know, I think if you looked at the wedding we had this weekend, it was archetypical of what we would have.
Understand,
assumed.
but
Yeah,
hours of operation are a big concern for neighbors.
right. Yeah, I think within reason, it's certainly possible. Yeah.
And Sean, I can't remember what, say, I'll pull one out on the Hawk event. What was the hours of operation there?
It was 12:30.
Midnight. Yeah, 12 a.m.
That wouldn't be the end of the world for us. So.
And it gets a little fuzzy because people are also staying there, so delineating between the conclusion of an event and they're on, you know, sleeping on the property is a little fuzzy.
Well, you understand that, you know, for us, as trying to minimize impact, it would be that the music would be offered
Oh, yeah.
minimal at that
Oh,
point.
yeah, that's easy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Additionally, we've had maximum number of events per year So that, again, the impacts to neighbors are mitigated. Is that something that would be, I've heard anywhere from 13 to 15, is that correct, Sean?
I think it was 50,
The-
35 to 50.
So the issue would be like weddings, obviously a pretty big one, but we will host like a really small farm to table dinner or a small fundraiser. Like it's hard to field trips from like Telluride Academy. Like that would be the hard part is what's an event, you know?
We would, and for me, it would be a wedding event with music.
Okay, and maybe.
It'd be the sound and the volume of traffic on Mingus.
So like events over X people with music kind of thing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm open to that as long as it were really clearly defined, so it's not to impact, you know, a lot of the really good things we're doing for the community.
Yep. And this is truly agritourism.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the-
It truly is. It meets all the qualifications. and we appreciate that.
Association, free. Do fundraisers. Free, and they play music, you know, I would hate to start turning people down, you know, so that we could host another.
It's trying to mitigate the impact to one, traffic, and two, the noise. So, and you guys are in a unique situation there. We went through some Dominguez Canyon road impact stuff. Signage is a very good idea. Appreciate that. We've asked the Hawk venue, they offered to help pay for mag chloride on that section of gravel road where they're operating off of. Would that be also
We would, I mean, certainly we're happy to help with any of these things. The question is, it's what, 3.5 miles?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know what the costs on those.
and it might just be close to the Groves Road
Sure,
area
just that corner right
where
there.
the,
Yeah,
the neighbors are.
yeah. I think we'd be open to reasonable, things on that.
And then you mentioned fencing to protect incursion on the private lands. Is that already in place or is that?
Most of it's in, we had a wildlife, before we even owned it, there's a wildlife fence. The issue is there's one chunk of land, like 2 or 3 acres. That juts out over onto one of the really good overlooks, and it's private land on both sides with the lick hearts. And that's one where it's not delineated, those kind of things, and so before we allowed people up there, we would. I don't know whether fence is the right answer, because we also don't want to screw up their views. But, you know, some kind of delineation and then maps for our guests saying, stay on the trail, this is private land. I feel fairly confident we can accomplish that, so.
Questions for then Sean, they have proposed a different noise standard for measuring a 600-foot level. Are you comfortable with that or would you rather
600
continue?
feet and things are referenced to the special event standard
Yeah.
that they, I forget exactly how it says it, but that's the noise limits have to be put on, you know, if you're within 600 feet of the neighboring property. I think what they've asked for is the removal of decibel log, like keeping a decibel log. Or only in the event of a reported, you know, complaint or something. And that is fine with me. I mean, we've applied that to the other event venues in recent past because they are in closer proximity to more neighbors. And it was just some way to mitigate, you know, and to require them to keep some sort of a record and to review it. But we can also do the same with complaints. You know, if we receive complaints about noise from neighbors because of events, then we can investigate that as well. I'm fine with eliminating the requirement for a decibel log to be maintained.
Unless there are complaints. Mr. Bear, you're pretty certain on our statutory requirements here. Is there any change?
So a couple of comments on this. I really think that this needs to be fleshed out much earlier in the process, including with PC and with legal. This is really something that I've been engaged in for less than 20 hours.
Okay.
So, I stand by all the statements I made. I don't see a distinction between RV and campground. Is that something that I'm willing to look into more? Of course. My recommendation at this point is to deny the campground or the campground RV portion of this. If the applicant wants to put together a separate application as an amendment, which we clearly see all the time coming through these processes, take it through the PC, let the PC flesh it out, let legal flesh it out. Who knows? But at this point, I don't see it, I don't see a distinction, and that's based on,
That's kind of where I was leaning to.
that's, you
I'd
know,
like to
that's
hear from
based on, you know, I've really been engaged since about 5 p.m. yesterday on this.
I'd like to see what the Army Corps of Engineer has to.
Well, it's both the engineering, it's the environmental issues, and it's a safety issue.
Yeah.
It's all of those. They're all related, but they're all involved in that. So that.
Okay. Any more comments and questions for the proponents?
Sorry, well, I'll leave my comments at that.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
We have the Lickards here. They have requested to visit with commissioners. Mr. Lickard, if you'd like to come forward. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please identify yourself and where you live.
I'm Larry Lichtart. I live at the place on Groves Road there. My wife and I are owners of that property. So this proposal will affect us. We have submitted our comments in writing. And I assume you have those. I really am impressed with the discussion today that you're taking that into close consideration, and we appreciate that. I think the main thing I would like to emphasize is the road. As Sean has talked about, that's one of the major concerns I've heard from neighbors and things. And some of the solutions, for instance, mag chloride just on the corner there would address our dust problem for us specifically. But we still have the deterioration of the road. We still have the expense that the county goes through on a regular basis maintaining that road. So I believe that we need to have a mag chloride chip and seal something for that entire 3.5 mile stretch. We're increasing the amount of traffic on that road, and it's already deteriorating on a very regular basis. It's gotten, before you worked on it this last time, it was so bad, I was just about driving in the ditch to try to stay off of it. So I think that's the main thing. I appreciate the work that's being done on the noise levels. I believe Colby and Leslie are very forthright in wanting to maintain our dark skies, which is good. And I think we can handle, we hope to be able to handle the trespass problem, because we do have a intermingled private property level there that I don't think the county's gonna be able to help us out much with. I mean, we've got to work with Colby on that. So let me take a quick look here.
Mr. Lickard, where is your property in relation to the Honey Rock property?
Okay, we do border them
On the south?
upriver from them. So south kind of puts you across the river, south and west. is the way I look at it. It gets a little confusing out there. So we are the property right upriver with the fields, if you've got an overall map. So we have about 15 acres of fields there. And then you go up over this, what we call the red rock, that's what they're digging back into to put the houses and stuff.
Yeah.
And then that top area is where we share a couple of private property lines because of an exchange and sale that has occurred in the past, quite some time ago. And so does that help? I'm not being very clear, I don't think, but yeah, that's the situation. The one thing I don't think you have much control over the acceleration lanes that we've talked about today. It is pretty tricky getting across when you go left to Grand Junction. The visibility is bad. And the other problem is just finding the left-hand acceleration lane before you may merge with the major traffic on the on your right-hand side as you're going up that hill. Additional painting or signage of some sort. I went out in a snowstorm one day and in the dark, and it was very hard to find that lane going across there. So, and we do have that kind of problem. So I do have the concerns of if there's alcohol involved with these weddings and events and they go late at night, that we'll have troubles with that. I don't know how much control you have over that, but that is a concern. The road is narrow and in some places very hard to see traffic coming and going. So and it sounds like you're trying to address that. Maybe I don't think speed signs would help. People don't follow those anyway. But maybe some curb signs or something to warn people that this is a blind curve, that something like that would help people out going in and out, I think. Once again, just to finish up, it's not just a dust problem. It's more of a road deterioration, washboarding of that entire 3.5 mile stretch. And that's what needs to be worked on. We have crossings that wash out and stuff, but I think money is better spent on making sure we have a good quality surface road as opposed to trying to put in, I don't know what you would propose, maybe culverts or something like that that are just going to wash out. So.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions or thoughts for Mr. Lockhart?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else opposed?
Is there anybody else opposed, either in the room or online? Thank you. Lindsay, anybody?
No, sir.
Anyone in favor?
Is there anybody here in favor would like to comment at this point? Lindsay, anybody online?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. It's time now for the commissioners to deliberate on this application. Gentlemen, this is an excellent project. It's got its issues like all of them do. We've heard quite a bit of information on what's going on here. I do agree with Sean that it is a conditional use permit, given the magnitude of all the different events going on there. Mr. Bear made a very wise comment about perhaps eliminating for the time being the RV site that's in the floodplain. Let the applicants work with the Army Corps of Engineer and any emergency plan and submit an amendment to this. I think it's a very good idea. What are you guys' thoughts?
Do we have a cost per mile of what it costs to put mag chloride down?
Tim is here.
I don't have that on hand. I believe like on the Hawk wedding venue, that was about $7,000, I think, was one of the numbers I remember seeing. Robbie has a report from the Pub Works. One of the problems with mag chloride is you don't want to apply it and then grade it often. So it's my understanding that Road and Bridge have been grading that 10 to 12 times a year. So you don't want to apply mag chloride and then go grade it. So that is an issue.
Does mag chloride have any, any capability of holding the road together better?
It does a little bit, yes.
So would we reduce the amount of times we're out there grading then if we? I mean, could you get by with once or twice a year? In other words, if it's mag chloride?
Typically on most of our gravel roads, I think they get them once or twice a year for grading without application of mag chloride. So I think one of the reasons that this one is bladed so often is it's also a bus route, I believe.
It is.
So
And what would you recommend? Because Dominguez Canyon Road is, like I said, a bus route, it's seeing more activity, more recreation in general on the river corridor. What do you recommend? Short of paving?
paving, it would be way too expensive. You guys know that.
Mile.
Chip and seal is typically used as a treatment for pavement, not to chip and seal a gravel road. If you chip and seal the gravel road, it's not gonna last long term. So I would not recommend that. So your options are blading it as often as we do, or less blading and more mag chloride application. We have done road bonds. That's a fine line. There's a fine line between a road bond and road impact fees that we got to be careful on. We could go either route. Previous boards were not on board or didn't want to do road impact fees. There's special requirements we got to follow to do that. We could recommend a road bond like we've done for other applicants in the county. For
But
mag
those bonds
chloride,
are short-lived, for the
right,
duration of a construction project or other.
right.
It was not long-term. Okay.
I'd almost be willing to do some sort of an experiment where we try blading twice a year instead of 10 or 12 times a year and do a mag chloride in the interim to see if we can, if it'll actually work. I mean, we'll know in 1 year, right, if it's gonna work or not.
Mhm.
I think you'd know within a couple of months.
Yeah, I think you would. I think with the
Have you
amount
driven
of,
that road?
I don't think.
you're hauling fruit out of there and the bus is down there. That's why it's getting bladed as often as getting bladed to help with that.
Robbie, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you're right to set aside the RV, even the floodplain issue. I know the Road and Bridge District 3 has tried a couple of different options, especially to address the washboards where they've used a combination of the mag chloride and packing it as well as wetting it down. It might be a logical place to try that as well, similar to what Montrose County does going into the Black Canyon National Park. So maybe there's some options like that. Glean some of the work that Montrose County has done there.
Yeah, and in regards to the RV park, like, again, a year ago, I wouldn't have probably hesitated to figure out a way to do this, but in light of what we've seen this year, I'd almost be willing to also remove that one and treat it as a separate permit and get the Army Corps in there and get an assessment from them and come up with the emergency plan, but to probably remove it from this application seems to be the right thing to do at this point.
So John, this resolution that we have in our packet, we approve everything but the RV campground park. And with the mag chloride and everything, do those conditions need to be added to this resolution?
Sean has a draft resolution, and of course, he can modify that to whatever the board's desire, or if there's a motion to approve. Sean, I can work with Sean if he needs it, but just to make that reflect the will of the board, yes.
I would like to add, and I want to make sure it's said, say this properly, that the hours of operation and max number of events per year reflect music events and then not field trips or fundraisers. So that we minimize the impact to neighbors in the canyon, past 12 a.m.
So you would like it added condition of
Yes.
approval
Yeah.
for hours of operation and max number of events only pertaining to music.
Correct.
events. And is
The
there,
proponent said that sounded reasonable to them.
okay, what would the hours be and the max number of events be?
I've heard 50 per year and 12 a.m. were reasonable. And I'll look to the proponents. Did that sound reasonable to you guys? Knowing who your neighbors are and where you live.
Yeah, that hours seem reasonable. I'm just a little uncomfortable still with what constitutes an event.
A music event is what I'm trying to,
Okay.
so that we're not playing Metallica past
Okay, like if
midnight.
there's background music for home to table dinner.
That's different than a loud music
Okay.
event.
Yeah, so just somehow getting that in writing.
Is there a way you can,
So like a live performance music event or
Right.
amplified music event?
I like
I
that
don't
term.
know.
No, that,
Yeah, I mean, we play our background music over speakers.
Right.
I don't want to be difficult. I just
no,
want to make sure.
we
it's
gotta get this
any
right.
funnier. Yeah.
All right, I can work on some language.
Would you work with the proponents on language that makes sense, please?
Is there maybe a decibel level thing we could put in there, like? Yeah, we can work with you on that.
Maybe that decibel level
Yeah.
of music.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's fine, but the board's motion will have to flush some of this out. I don't know that you want to.
Yeah, exceeding 90 dB, 600 feet from the stage,
Exceeding, again,
not to exceed 90 dB.
okay.
We talked a little bit about road signage and maintenance on Dominguez Canyon Road. I do think we need wayfinding signs. And I don't know how to address the road maintenance part if we're gonna try some different techniques to, one, minimize dust and two, minimize washboarding, given all the other users on that road. John, you got a thought there?
I don't know that you need to address it at all. It's just going to be charged literally and figuratively to Road and Bridge, Public Works to maintain it in the best way they want to. If you are intending on putting some sort of a challenge or cost onto the developer, then you need to address that.
We
But-
did
but
with
if
the
you-
Hawks.
You did. But that's what I'm making the distinction. If there was a lot of talk about, oh, should we grade, should we mag chloride, should we, these sorts of stuff, I mean, that's all fine and good, but that's county resources taking care of that. And I don't know that the board needs to get into the weeds with that, rather than just challenging our administrative road and bridge department to do what they do. But if you're gonna put a condition on as far as any kind of a cost, then that's really what you should clarify now, or clarify in any motion.
Gentlemen, your thoughts?
Is that what we did with Hawks? We put a dollar amount on that? Do you remember what it was? It was like $7,500 if I remember right.
But that was calculated off the specific area that we may apply to. I mean, you know, some sort of calculation, engineering, looked at that. Discounted the application of mag chloride that's already applied in that stretch of the road annually at the front of accesses, and then determined an amount to mitigate the dust of going by multiple neighbors down Cottonwood Creek Road.
And the Hawks were not responsible for 100% of that cost.
No.
It was, I think it was a 75%.
Here's what the conditions stated in the resolution. There shall be an annual road bond of the amount of $7,500 to cover 75% of the cost of the application of mag chloride to Cottonwood Creek Road, starting from 4200 Road to the venue access point. Every 5 years, the bond amount will be updated pursuant to the Consumer Price Index.
Gentlemen, thoughts?
Does that sound all right with the?
The road's already not working for the neighbors, like when we haul fruit on it, like, so for us to then to have to keep that road at some level that would be, have to upgrade it first, then compensate for our impacts, I don't see how that should be on us, if that makes sense.
Well, I think the general idea is that the increase in traffic is what would generate that kind of an agreement. So by opening event center, you're obviously increasing the traffic on the road.
Sure.
And so this is just a compensation, would you, for lack of a better term?
My worry is that there's no way to quantify that, right? So if you have, like right now, they're grading it 10 to 12 times a year and it's still problematic, all the neighbors, you know, even with just hauling fruit and buses and stuff like that. So for us to take it to a perfect standard, there'd be a lot of payment of just getting it up to the baseline first, if that makes sense. The concept of us paying for our impacts makes some sense. I just don't know how that would work. Mag chloride maybe doesn't work, chip seal's not feasible, paving's not feasible. We're open to the concept of helping with our impacts. I'm just worried that since it's already in such a shape, that's the.
Well, I think that's a common denominator with all of our gravel roads. You know, they're all subject to deterioration. Yours probably more than others because of the extra use that's already in place. So we're kind of just looking for a way to mitigate some of those additional costs that are going to be there to keep the road to the point where the neighbors are going to be comfortable with the increase in dust that's going to come about because of this operation.
I would ask that Honey Rock would follow the same model that Hawks Development did and provide a $7,500 payment annually for additional for mag chloride in the dust area at Groves Road. Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, it's assuming that's gonna work, right? We would be.
If it doesn't work, we need to come back and revisit this.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, because if mag chloride doesn't work and then we're paying for mag chloride, I wouldn't want to do that, but paying something to help with that impact.
Well, I don't think there's any question that the mag chloride would help. It's just a matter of the surface itself, the grading. And, you know, if we're obviously not grading other roads in the county 10 or 12 times a year. This one we are. So we have to be really careful that we're not, like Tim stated, grading off your mag chloride into the bar ditch while we're trying to improve the surface of the road. So it would be, you know, there would be some tricks there to figure out what the best options are. We're just trying to figure out a way to help get to that point. And unfortunately, everything comes with a dollar sign these days. So everything we do, fuel, mag chloride, tires, I mean, everything has got a dollar sign attached to it. So I think I would concur with what Mr. Coons has said, that we just have this in place going forward so that we can have that available to us to add to the road and bridge to that particular road. And
Condition that mag chloride is actually applied, right?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wouldn't be just money, just throw it into the kitty. It would be actually designated for mag chloride.
And the last note I had was making sure that the fencing or other with your neighbor, that's it, that an issue between you and Mr. and Mrs. Lickhart.
Yeah, we're
Yeah, we get along
We-
really well with that. So
Okay, we
I know
encourage you
that
to
we can-
continue to do so.
We can solve, yeah.
Neighbor to neighbor is not something that board is likely to weigh in on.
And it's refreshing to see that you guys are communicating in an open fashion, transparency, because that's not always the case.
No, their concerns, I think, are very valid. I live down there, I'd say the same thing, that we have that.
Great.
Gentlemen, anything else for discussion here? Sean?
When you make your motion, would you mind please stating those two additional new conditions? So that I don't have to come up with.
We'll try our best.
Thank you.
Robbie, John, anything else?
Well, I think this is more than two.
Hours of operation, maximum number of events.
In road bond.
So max number of events would be separate from hours of operation.
All one or two. It's just important, as we all know, it's important that in.
As
for
much
Terry's
clarity.
purposes, but for everyone's purposes, that the motion that the board makes represents what the board wants to do. Sometimes we have to be very careful that we don't just have discussion, and there's discussion about this and that and the other, and maybe there's even a general consensus about something, but if the motion would represent that, sometimes in the future, that can.
Let's give it as much clarity as we can.
I'm just encouraging whoever's gonna be making the motion to kind of nail those things, so that our record is clear.
So the hours of operation are one, correct?
Yeah, I understood as included in that was also a maximum number of those
Let's
types of
separate
events
those out.
per year.
So hours of operation not to exceed 12 AM.
Or no more than 50 events with music over 90 decibels. in
As measured
volume,
600 feet from the stage.
As measured 600 feet. from the stage.
And the 12 AM. Restriction. Right,
Okay,
Yeah, in other words,
I'm not dictating that, that's what I thought I heard. that-
there's a 12 AM thing.
and a road bond will be required as long as mag chloride is used.
An annual road bond of $7,500 for an annual application or maybe multiple applications of mac chloride to the corner near Grover's. I don't know, I'm throwing out words here.
I guess I'm suggesting that you work with Tim McCracken, county engineer, and Mark McMillan, Road and Bosch, District 1, to establish the baseline of what that road is. Develop a plan for improvement. And then jointly agree that the increased costs for the application of whatever it is borne upon the road bond with the applicant at the table as well.
Is there an NTE on that?
Is there a what?
Not to exceed?
Not to exceed the 7,500.
And maybe some clarification about, are you talking about the intersection right around Grove Road?
The dust control we are.
Intersection about the intersection with Grove Road, or are you talking about the entire length in different things? So, because that's obviously significantly different.
Also, to add to Robbie, there was discussion about signage as well, and that would include signage. Robbie's statement.
Yep. I like what you said.
Work with, okay.
And Commissioner, if it is, Mike, are you going to be making the motion then? And I don't know what your motion will be, but if you intend on denying the camp RV area, that would be part of your motion.
Mhm.
As identified in number 9 in Exhibit A. And then another one might be a waiver of the decibel log until Lake's required. I agree. Consensus on that one.
Okay. Okay.
You ready? Any discussion?
One question is possible when, we would have to go back and see based on what gets denied and the additional costs here, whether this still makes economic sense for us to do this. So at what point can we pull our application and not be on the hook for some of these costs?
Good question. The road portion of it, I think by pulling the application, the road requirement would go away. Right? There would be no increased traffic. And the other ones didn't really have a monetary attachment to them, did they?
There's a concept here that we go and look at what use by right would be for these different parcels, which could possibly not hit some of the CDOT stuff and these additional things. So I just want to know when are we on the hook for these additional costs?
Use by right, they can have up to 4 rentable units, like these hospitality units in A35 zone. And then
Per 35 acres, though, right?
that's a great question. I don't know the answer to if you would consider this by parcel or by property as a whole, since the property is one entity, but divided into multiple parcels. I mean, I've not thought about that kind of a proposal before in terms of like, can you permit, one property under one owner, but in 4 different parcels, does each parcel have its own, permit limits? That's a question
I don't know the answer to that either.
Then up to 10 rentable units is for a guest ranch. And the guest ranch is a limited use permit. So what's been proposed for hospitality units is 10 rentable rooms. And that was the applicant's original application, just that when saw the future plans for campgrounds and events and so forth, elevated it to conditional use permit to take the entirety of the project into consideration. So there's several points at which it could be reeled back to. And then I don't know what the implications are necessarily for these other added conditions. It's whether or not events can continue to be a part of the application or not. That would probably determine some of these other added conditions for the road impacts and the noise.
Nothing easy about these venues, are there? We want these things to succeed, but we also want to mitigate impacts.
And if the permit is not approved, then you would not be on the hook for any of these costs that we're talking about here, especially in regards to the roads. So that condition has to be included. This has to go through as a permitted application. Otherwise, that becomes a moot issue.
So, sorry, maybe this sort of said, these are conditions. If Honey Rock, chooses not to go through with that, at some point, I don't know, John, at some point it's just closed out, I guess, and that sort of thing, this part of it, right? I mean, I think that's how, because, I mean, obviously, traffic study, you got this, you got that, all these are all conditions that Honey Rock is likely, depending on what the board does here, is going to be required to kind of complete their this development application.
And that's just it's hard, some of these questions, it's hard for me to say yes or no exactly, because like we do the financial modeling and it appears to be profitable. But then if you've got these conditions that just keep dropping, at some point it doesn't make sense to do it. So, not that 7,500 is gonna make or break this kind of thing, but additional information, especially the CDOT one, which is not your guys' issue there, so.
Totally
And
understand.
we have to recognize we gotta treat all these event venues similarly.
Sure, yeah.
Based on the conditions. And road access on gravel roads has been a real point of contention with all the neighbors and all these issues.
Should I give it a shot?
What's the will of the board here?
Well, I move that we approve the conditional use permit for guest rent, lodging, RV park, campground, restaurant, and venue, project number 24-52 Honey Rock LLC. But not to approve the RV park / campground. Hour of operations will not exceed 12 AM. The decimal should not exceed 90 decimals after 600 feet from the property line,
No, we say it's a page.
from the stage, from the stage. Signage and work on the county road will be worked out with the county road boss and the engineers to come up with a plan to hopefully mitigate the dust and the washboarding by the use of mag chloride and incorporate that. As long as mag chloride is used, the road bond will be $7,500 per year. Waiver of the decimal log unless complaints are received about the noise at the venue.
Just a clarification, you said the RV park, there's two proposed RV campsites, one's on a hill, one's by the river, so it's not just all of them, just the one by the river.
Unit in the floodplain.
The 5 unit in the floodplain, not to be approved.
Maximum number of events, do we have that in there, or do we?
Maximum number of with music events not to exceed 50 per year. All the other field trips or events of that nature would be allowed.
Clarification, Commissioner, in regard to the road bonds, maybe a clarification of whether that, again, is in relation to the dust mitigation around the other road. I'm sorry, I don't have it pulled up. The intersection, if that's what you're talking about, or you're talking about the whole amount, the whole 3.5 miles. That's, so maybe some clarification about that. And the other thing, just for one of the comments here, I think I heard you say something about hours of operation or whatever to 12 AM. And there was some clarification from the applicant earlier that maybe 12 AM for events, because they do have overnighters and clearly that's gonna be beyond 12 AM. So I'm just trying to maybe flesh out a little bit of that detail.
And the mag chloride would be used there at the Groves intersection on that curve and work with the county to come up with a road plan to help with that.
The hours of operation. Is that 12 AM only related to the events?
You're right, 12 AM to the wedding event
Music
with
events.
music events.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, that's Terry.
Okay. I think we're there. I will second the motion.
Any other discussion, gentlemen? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And this is resolution number 39.
Did they have to make a new resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, Mr. and Mrs. Barrett, we really hope you are successful with your venture here. And it is really the definition of agritourism. We'd like to see you guys succeed beyond our expectations too. Just understanding the impacts of events like this on neighbors. It's always hard for us. So we wish you the best and I hope to see you down there. We're gonna take a quick 5 minutes here before we tackle the next land use.
But I just. So it has to do more with, county road standards.
Thank you. Proceed.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Or actually, it's lunchtime. I guess it's not morning anymore.
Getting perilously close.
For your consideration, today is an, request, reducing the required driveway offsets, laid out in the road and bridge standards. And this applies to PLN 25-020 Ritz Ranches. This is an approved limited use permit for a guest ranch. A guest ranch is a working farm, a ranch that also includes rooms for lodging. They're allowed to do outdoor recreation activities, horseback riding, etc. They can also do private parties, corporate retreats, and weddings. During the application process, it was reviewed by engineering, planning, Chapter 4 of the Land Use Code, which talks about traffic and all that. A traffic study was completed along with a business plan. There will be events held in the 3 existing metal side barns that are on the property. There was a parking plan for 90 vehicles provided with the traffic study done by Apex Consulting Engineering, no issues with traffic, parking plan, business plan. So what the issue is the, based on the road standards, 4.9.7, which is use of access, change of use or the type of use or service requires an amended permit, access permit. So this one is changing from residential to commercial. Item 13 of Appendix 5 gives this driveway offsets by classification of road and type of use. Fruitland Mesa Road is classified as a collector road. Non-residential driveways on a collector require 150 feet between accesses, which this access does not meet that standard. In the limited use permit that was approved by the planning department, it was one of the requirements was to update the existing access to meet standards. And they were given 1 year to make this meet this condition. The applicant is here to make a case to reduce that standard. So there's a couple options that I provided. The first option was to close one of the accesses, one of the legs of the horseshoe access, shown in figure 1. So the blue would be what they could do to keep the east access right here and close the west one. That would make it comply with the road standards. The second option would be to move one of the accesses 50 foot away from the other one, whichever one they don't move, or move both of them 25 feet. And then the third option is for the Board of County Commissioners, which in item 13, it states that this offset between driveways can be reduced and approved by the Board of County Commissioners. And that's why we're here today. It states The driveway offsets can be reduced by the Board of County Commissioners due to the existence of limiting factors. The applicant is here to make his case. Next slide. This one shows, this is the option 2 that would show moving both of them. You could move one or the other to meet the standard. This is the bridge standard. So conclusion, I recommended following the road and bridge standards in options 1 or 2, and then to direct engineering staff to prepare a resolution based on your findings today.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions for Tim?
Is Fruitland Mesa Road, is it one of the east-west roads that we're going to use in case the bridge is out at Hotchkiss? They can come down Fruitland Mesa to get to Crawford?
Fruitland Mesa is way south by the county line in Crawford. It's on the south side of the mesa. It's the South Mesa of Smith Fork River. So it funnels people east-west on the Fruitland Mesa.
There would be other east-west roads that we
Right.
would use prior to
To
having to
using
use
this.
Fruitland Mesa.
Okay.
I can see if I can pull up the map.
While he's doing that, other questions, Commissioner Fuller?
I don't have anything at this point.
John, Robbie? Any comments, thoughts?
So Tim, the recommendation is the variance, I'm gonna use that term. 150 to how much is it?
So you could either close one leg of the horseshoe, which would, then the offset's met. Or move one side 50 feet, or move them both 25 to get to the 150 feet offset.
Right now, we're at about.
Or leave it as it is with the board's approval.
Which is at 100, right?
So the 100 feet current.
Correct.
Right.
All right.
And because it's residential, commercial, this came forward to us. Oh, the questions, I'd invite Mr. Rick to come up. Please make sure the microphone's on and introduce yourself.
I brought some pictures. They're in 3 together, crisscrossed on there, so you can check it out. My name is Jason Rick. My family and I own Rick Ranches and Rick Hospitality. Our home property is adjacent to this property that we bought. Number one, to keep it from a confined chicken feeding operation, and also to expand our current grass-fed, grass-finished beef direct-to-consumer business. In our procedures of figuring out what we were going to do to pay the mortgage, we reached out to the planning department to make sure that we met all of the standards that so many of the other venues had really struggled with. And this is the last thing, is the egress degress on this property. Because we did a change of use, it encountered us, needing to meet these standards. And the pictures that I sent out are actually of our county's equipment, because they used our property to park their paving and skid steer when they were doing the asphalt layment out there on Fruitland Mesa Road, where all the improvements they did on the west end of the road. So it's pretty convenient for many things. All of our neighbors know that it's the safest place to turn around on the mesa, because it's the only driveway of its kind on the 13 miles of Fruitland Mesa Road. It was designed as a commercial cattle ranch. So it's designed to come in and out with tractor trailers. And if it were as simple as just moving and widening, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But if you look at it, to the east is a 5-rail drill stem welded corrals. And to the west is our buried 15,000-gallon freshwater domestic water cistern. So where that paver is parked and where that skid steer is parked is just south of our cisterns. So if you look at Tim's proposal to widen both of those, that would mean us cutting out and then having to have a power pole moved to the east. and then making a sharp corner to get around our cistern to bring trucks in and out. The other proposal was to close the one entrance. But if you look at the way that the house is laid and the way that the road in front of the house actually lays, if you couldn't make that corner back around the house to get back out, which causes a problem in reality that you couldn't go in and out that way. You know, the school bus uses it, the plow truck drivers use it, you know, neighbors, they forget something somewhere pulling a stock trailer full of cattle. They use this horseshoe driveway as well as our Airbnb guests. And one thing that we found when we were having an event, whether it's an open house or a wedding, having two driveways is super valuable because then there's always a second way out. And it's historical. And so let's say we block one of the driveways, someone's in an emergency and they go to use this driveway, they plow into whatever barricade that we've put there. So like the safety of that doesn't make sense either. And so I'm here today asking for a variance for us to be able to keep it 100 feet inside to inside versus closing one of them or trying to widen them to meet the road and bridge standard.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Rick?
I don't think I have any questions.
Mike?
Give me a minute.
You know when that driveway and house was built?
So the original mention of the horseshoe driveway was in Miss Davis's journal in 1911. So that was the original Sears and Roebuck house that was built on site as the kit house that was built by the homesteaders, was the first reference to their horseshoe driveway. The current house was built in 1995.
On the east side, you say there's welded pipe fence there. Now, is the power pole in that too?
That is correct. So it's about 3 feet inside the south pipe and it's 11 feet inside the westward pipe. So it would have to be moved as well.
And that's from, is that DMA's power pole?
Yes, sir.
And that services the house.
Yep, the house and then we have separate meters. We have a separate electric meter that runs off the same transformer for all of the agricultural businesses or buildings as well.
Other questions, thoughts here? John, Robbie? John?
No.
I don't think 1911 Bolton is established.
Depends on whether it's a Colt or what.
That's called 150 years.
I'll abstain as I've used that driveway to turn around myself.
We're gonna have to leave the room.
I don't have issues with the way he presented it. It makes sense. I just don't have the authority to make that decision.
Appreciate your presentation.
Yeah.
It'd be my recommendation to the board based on historic use, extenuating circumstances with utilities and other infrastructure there that we approve a variance for this.
And I would concur. I mean, that's the whole point of coming to a variance is, you know, you gotta take the letter of the law that says do this, and then you get into the reality of, okay, we're on Fruitland Mesa Road here. We are miles from any kind of traffic flow that's gonna have any kind of a problem with leaving it the way it is. I mean, everything here screams, leave it alone, and I appreciate your bringing this to us, and Mr. Rick, you know, obviously 1911 is not long enough. Well, what is long enough? So I would concur with Mr. Kuntz that we go ahead and grant this variance because.
Would you like to make a motion?
Well, anybody else in the room have any comments or on the computer?
This isn't a public hearing.
Computer.
This isn't a public hearing.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Did you break it, Tim?
You.
No.
So. Case, where did I go?
Was there anybody online?
No.
Okay.
I will make a motion that we grant a variance to the Rick Ranch to leave their driveways as is with 100 foot between them.
Use the driveway offset standard verbiage. Right there.
That we make a variance request reduction of the driveway offset standards by the BOCC, that's us.
And direct
And
me
direct,
to create a resolution document.
and direct engineering staff to draft a resolution and making that legal.
Clear as mud again, guys.
I seconded.
Any other discussion? I would ask that engineering also provide a diagram showing this resolution.
So maybe I'll ask, well, how this can be documented
By resolution.
by resolution.
And this will be resolution 2025 R40. 40.
I misheard the last resolution. I thought you said 31, you said 39. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye. So,
leave it alone.
Thanks, gentlemen
Thanks for coming
and
in.
ladies. Appreciate your time. This is my first time in this room.
We'll get that done and give you a copy of it.
Thank you.
Where you done? Identify that resolution so that idle companies in the future would see it, and find it. That's what I'm concerned about, you know, when we make something like this, 50 years from now, there's gonna be different people in this room. And then.
Not
more in
me.
this room. Lindsay will still be here. But you know what I'm saying, so that there is some record, I mean, I know the resolution's recorded, but. You know, really in the real estate records that this exception, this variance, whatever we're calling it, is documented.
It's got to be up to the landowners.
But that doesn't happen.
It doesn't have, you know, and then, you know, so, but anyways, we can talk offline with some of these issues.
I don't know. I don't know if you could get it to the assessor's office for them to put it on this particular resolution on their side.
Maybe, okay, maybe we'll have a conversation with Julie about some of those things.
I mean, it's specific, these that are specific to.
Piece of property, property.
Yeah.
Thanks. And next is the addition. Tim McCracken, County Engineer, is here regarding the award recommendation letter for Blakefield. You have the document in front of you.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Got it right this time, it's afternoon. Before you is a board recommendation letter for the pavement maintenance project at Blakefield. There are 3 schedules attached to this. Schedule 1 is the runway 321 pavement maintenance. Schedule 2 is South Hangar partial taxi lane pavement maintenance. And then the 3rd schedule is the other taxi lane pavement maintenance. There were 5 bids received by Lochner, our airport consultant. Those contractors are Maxwell Asphalt, CR Contracting LLC, American Road Maintenance, Highlight Airfield Services, and Straight Stripe Paving. Lochner is recommending to award the bid to Maxwell Asphalt Incorporated for a total contract of $263,104.65. The following budget needs, it shows schedule 1, 2, and 3. The construction total is the 263 that I mentioned previously. Engineering fees are 72,000. That's not for the approval today. It's just the construction schedules 1, 2, and 3 on page 2. Page 3 is Heather, she's the airport PE. Page 4 is the bid tabulation showing all the bids that came in. Maxwell was the low bidder. I believe we've used Maxwell on previous airport projects. I believe I've seen that name elsewhere. Page 4 is an itemized schedule. And the final page is the aerial views of the project that's so the green one circled, that's by the fuel tank and the skydivers. That is schedule 2. The runway schedule 1, which is not shown in an image. And the other 2 are part of schedule 3, which is the, I believe that's the 100 block on the right, which is the old portion of the airport. And then the 300 block, and I don't know what that short one is called. But those will also get crack sealing and surface treatment.
Questions for Tim on this?
Yep.
This is all of this year's budget. They're gonna go ahead and do this yet this year?
Yes, so this is grant funded. We have a 10% match on these grants for the airports.
I would prefer Lochner provide a summary bid tally,
Okay.
but I can do the math, but
For the next one, that's what you're looking for, a summary?
I could do some, all the other RFPs.
Okay.
Makes an easier comparison. I do like the format of everything else.
Be nice to see the other bids.
Yeah.
Put this sheet here.
So the third page, on the back of the third page has, it is a item, semi-itemized.
If this not some.
Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners?
We got one.
What would be the will of the board?
Well, I move that we approve the award for Blake Field on Schedule 1 and 2 and the additional airfield pavement to Maxwell Asphalt Incorporated for a total contract amount of $263,104.65 upon receiving concurrence from the CDOT Aeronautics Planner.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there
Thank you.
anything else to come for the board, Tim?
I think it's a matter of-
Oh, that's
And
right.
attorney Friday.
He-
Almost got it.
I know we're all hungry.
I don't need to be here for the rest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for your work.
Don and Tim are done. So, whenever you're ready.
We'll move into county attorney time with Mr. Bear.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I do have 2 items for the board's consideration this afternoon. The first being a board's consideration of a resolution authorizing the purchase for the county attorney to sign closing documents for real property located on Hidden Mesa Road in Austin, Colorado. And this is involving the Diller property. Chairman, you're familiar with this, and I think the board is familiar with this. The county is attempting to retain this particular property for a kind of a right of way in relation to the proposed or the potential gravel pit in that area. I've had communications with Mr. Diller. He's already signed this, and so now it's before the board for consideration. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Mr. Bear on the first item here?
No, I have none.
I've got him. What number are we on now? 30?
41.
41.
40, that's right.
And again, this is part of the right of way. At some point, the county will evaluate splitting this and reselling portion not used.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025 R41, authorizing the purchase and for the county attorney to sign closing documents for real property located at TBD Hidden Mesa Road, Austin, Colorado, involving the Diller property.
I second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So done.
There, but you will also sign the contract as well. That one, but yeah, I might sign that.
Just 27 pages today, John. That's
Trying to keep it short.
okay. Appreciate that.
Unbelievable, well, maybe a date there. Unbelievable how long these standard real estate commission forms have become.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have one more item for the board's consideration this morning or this afternoon, and it's board's consideration of a resolution repealing resolutions number 2005 R019 and 2009 R01030 and amending and reenacting rules and regulations governing animal control. For a little background on this, Delta County has a resolution in regard to animal control, and that's 2005, so it's been in place for 20 years. 2005 R019, which I really think has served Delta County pretty well. You'll remember that there's been various changes in the classification of offenses by the state legislature, and that's sort of going to change some of this. So it kind of requires a change. So I worked with the sheriff, the undersheriff, as well as the public health director on this to kind of update and reinvigorate our animal control approach on this. And it does repeal the two resolutions. The second resolution there, 9030, which was just a slight change amending the 2005. So happy to answer any questions if you have this.
So what really precipitated this was a change in statute?
Yes.
And this will address red syrups?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I move that we approve resolution repealing resolution number 2005-R-019 and 2009 R-030 and amending and reenacting rules and regulations governing animal control. It'll be resolution number 2025 R-42.
Correct.
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So done.
Dogs under control.
That's all I have for the board's considerations this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anything else for the good of the order today?
I have none.
Hearing
None.
commissioners? Hearing none, we will stand adjourned.